Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of TJ Hates Quitters over here on Silent Podcast, where we are anything but silent. My name is Kari, and I am joined by my reoccurring guest, Tito, the two-time vet in the finals, really making an impact on his rookie season. Tito, how are you doing on this 4th of July?
I'm here. I'm ready. I'm not quitting. I'm going to finish this final if it kills me.
We love to see it. I hope you have prepared by riding a bike because yet again, we've got more bikes in these finals. It's like TJ's little input on it. Like, no, there has to be a bike. So I hope
And
you've
it's
been
like the least
practicing.
exciting part of the final is the bike riding. There's always some issue with the bikes.
Mm-hmm.
Goodness, TJ. Do better.
Absolutely. And I mean, I feel like the season just started. I feel like the season has gone by so fast. So the fact
So
that we're at
fast.
the episode before, the fact that they're splitting the final into 2 episodes, I'm not exactly happy with. I thought this week would be the last episode. It is not, but that's fine. It's fine. It's just that, like, is the rest of the finale going to take like a whole hour next week?
See, that's what I was thinking too. I was fully prepared for it to end and was
Mm-hmm.
ready. And I even thought it was going to. I didn't realize that when the episode ended, that it ended last week.
Mm-hmm.
Until it was like, oh, next time on. And I was like, oh, wait, we're done. And then they're
Yeah.
like, oh, this is now the overnight portion. And it's like, oh, wait, we're doing all of this? Like,
Yeah.
it's been a lot. But I'm excited, I guess, to see how it finishes. I think it'll be a good ending.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't wait to talk to you about the format of this finale because
I have thoughts.
I'm definitely am excited to talk about that. So before we actually get into the finale, we have to determine who is there because last week we left an elimination, Nehemiah and Derek in the middle of pole wrestle. So if you recall, Derek said he wanted the easy way out, so he went with Nehemiah, which removed Nehemiah from his Zen zone and into fuck a motherfucker up zone. And Nehemiah did just that.
Nehemiah destroyed him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was I don't think Derek had a shot, at least from what we saw. It seemed very much like Nehemiah is there to play, and Derek was just a rag doll to be thrown around. And seemingly everyone wanted Nehemiah to win too. He seemed to be getting a lot of support from everybody, but I don't know. Maybe I was
noticed that too.
that.
No, I noticed that too. Like basically everyone except Mark.
Right. And Brad kind of was.
Yeah.
And Brad's always on the fence with things like that, but I wrote down specifically Naya saying, break his shit, knee, break his shit. And at first I thought she was saying break his shit D, supporting Derek. And I was like,
yeah,
oh,
me too.
she's supporting Derek. And then I rewound it and listened, but it just seemed like everyone was supporting Nehemiah. So it played out, I think, that way pretty well.
Yeah. And last week, Wes put an apology up on Twitter being like, I shouldn't have said fuck him up so badly he doesn't have a family to go back to. But Naya was yelling even worse shit than I think what Wes was. I thought Wes, after those initial comments, calmed down, where Naya was just like, kill him, just destroy his whole life. So, yeah, I mean, Nehemiah took one right out of LT's book with the pole wrestle and just destroyed him. I do actually think that Derek would have had a better chance against Wes than he would have Nehemiah with this.
Wait, can you hear me? 1 second. I
can hear you.
Losing sound.
Oh. We love a live environment.
Okay, am I back? Can you hear me?
I could hear you the whole time.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Can you hear me? You might not be able to hear me.
I don't know what's happening.
All right, well, I'm going to keep monologuing.
Okay, we're good. I'm back.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't know what happened.
It's fine. Technology isn't always our friend.
Mm-hmm.
So I was saying, I think that Derek would have had a better chance against Wes than Nehemiah. I don't know if Wes has it in him to take pole wrestling to like the level that like Nehemiah or LT do. Like I feel like
Mm.
I don't know if Wes gets into like I'm gonna destroy your whole life mode. He maybe does. But I think that Derek like greatly underestimated what Nehemiah can like bring out of himself, where I don't know if Wes has that same like next level that Nehemiah does in terms of physicality.
Yeah, I think like Nehemiah has this reputation, or like Wes has this reputation that Nehemiah doesn't. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think seemingly it's like scarier, right, to call out Wes than it seemingly would be to call out Nehemiah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think people don't realize Nehemiah is a beast. Like, I think Nehemiah is probably one of the top contenders to win it all.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that him coming back into All Stars is the exact kind of format and formula for him to like win and
Mm-hmm.
take it all. Similar to like John A and how she maybe wasn't the greatest competitor on the regular challenge, but like she's come into All Stars and really like come into her own. I think Nehemiah has kind of found that ability and like strategy and is a beast, and he should be considered that way. And I can see like the fear of calling out Wes, but I think that you're probably right. I think maybe Wes would have been probably not an easy beat. Obviously, I think Wes probably
Right.
still beats Derek, but I think it would have been a fair match, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. So Derek loses. Nehemiah goes off. He's like, "This is highway," or "This is I'm the easy one. I'm the easy one." Wes is like, "This
Mm-hmm.
is a bank robbery. Like this is a
A
motherfucking bank."
motherfucking bank
Yeah.
robbery.
Something I'm not looking forward to with the Challenge USA is that we're not going to hear them swear like we do on All Stars, because I think it really
Oh.
does like add an element to it of more. It's like a more realistic element, because you're getting these people who are reality TV stars like all hyped up to do this super physical thing, and you have to like cut out 3/4 of what they're saying because it's laced with like
Mm,
motherfuckers or
right.
assholes or whatever it is. Like imagine the West versus Yes elimination if it's on MTV or the Challenge, because or MTV or CBS, because Yes was just like motherfuckering Wes up and down that whole challenge. Like for 45 minutes, he's just calling him anything and everything under the sun. So, I can't imagine. I'm gonna miss the swearing on CBS The Challenge. So our the next thing that happens is we have the women getting set up for their elimination, and TJ has them in the ring. We get them like facing off against each other, and um they even have their hands on the pole, and TJ is like ready, set, and then just kidding. So, I'm going to keep monologuing because Tito is like lost in the ethers of the internet. But I can recap what happens. I can talk about it. This is my dream for me and only me. Just kidding. So we've got Kellyanne, we've got Kayla, two people who've going at each other's throats all season, ready to go down in a pole wrestle. And when TJ calls it off, both of them were genuinely upset that he canceled it, which I really respected, because for me, I was expecting both of them, but more so Kayla to be like, "Oh, hell yeah, like I made it to the final um without having to do anything." So I was like happily surprised that both Kellyanne and Kayla were so upset that they didn't actually get to compete in the pole wrestle. So I think Tito's back. Tito, what did you think of
And
their
back.
reactions when TJ like had them all set to go and then was like, "Just kidding, we already lost Veronica. We're not going to eliminate anyone else." Like, what did you think of Kellyanne and Kayla's reactions to that?
So I thought first of all, it was like so funny to like go through all the motions. Like TJ's obnoxious for like setting them up, making them come down, grab the pole, like let's get ready to go, and then nah, just kidding. Like TJ,
Mhm.
stop. But also, it seemed like Kayla was ready to go. Kayla was ready
Uh-huh.
to like cut someone's throat. I think Kellyanne was the one that was like sounds good to me. Like, I'll
Yeah.
take what I can get. But I think Kayla was ready to fight, and I think Kayla would have won that. I do think that there's like something about Kayla that is like feisty and like aggressive and can turn it on in that way, to like get that win. But I think it was like a funny, like more so like the setup to it all. Like we knew this wasn't happening. Like I'm sure production was like, oh, we're not gonna lose somebody else, but let's make this a
Mm-hmm.
whole TV moment. So I thought that was funny. Um, Only for them to then lead up right into like, you, I want to congratulate you all. You made it to the next challenge. Like
Yeah.
the whole production of it all is just so funny to me. Like I don't know. There's like your thoughts behind that and like the fake out of it.
Well, last season, after the last elimination, they started the final right away. Like at
Right.
so last episode, I guessed that I was like, this is what I think is going to happen. There hasn't been an elimination yet where the women have gone after the men. There's no way there's going to be a women's
Mm.
elimination, especially in something like pole wrestling, where it is highly unlikely that the women are going to do something more entertaining than the men in this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
not that it can't be, but I just didn't think that would happen. So, and then like I think we're gonna go right into the final from there because that's what happened last season. So TJ mixing it up on me, I did appreciate because it's like I don't I want there to be a bit of predictability to structure in the challenge, but also I do like that it keeps them on their toes. Like I didn't like that it was still after the final elimination and I didn't know what these fucking stars were for. However,
Yes.
I I did like that I was wrong in my prediction because I think even maybe it was Brad that was like, "Oh, we're going to the final right now. It's starting right now. It's absolutely starting right now." And
Yeah.
then it didn't. So, I like that it keeps them guessing, but I think like on the flip side that one of the things that is frustrating about the challenge is sometimes it just feels like they make shit up as they go. So, um I liked
I
it in the
constantly
way
think that.
yeah, I liked it in the way that I was like, "Okay, this is different than last season." So they are trying to like keep things fresh, but at the same time it was like kind of lame how TJ's like, "For your next challenge." And that's it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's like it's the challenge. So like, and if you're a fan, you know that the format changes, and that's kind of the format of the challenge is that there is no format and it can change
Right.
whenever they want it to. But like I like the consistency of All Stars. Like what I appreciated of it is like there's a daily challenge, there's an elimination, throw in the lifesavers, right? Throw in the sabotages, or throw in the like after 5 challenges we're gonna change it, and the what do they call it this season? The authority is gonna be
Yeah.
6 people now versus 2, like fine. But this one was it's a challenge, right? Like it was a daily challenge that didn't end in elimination. Like
Yeah.
that kind of like rubbed me the wrong way. Like I get the whole like it's leading into the final. Maybe they should have called it a pre-final challenge. I don't know. I just like wanted there to be an elimination again. Like do it immediately. Or, like if there's a daily challenge, somebody wins. I mean somebody lost. I don't know. I'm not like too upset about it, but I do like the like oh like kept me on my toes. But I do think that it like extended like it was like another challenge for the sake of another challenge. Like it didn't seem to
Yeah.
have too many like a big outcome or any repercussions because of it. But I think
Mhm.
ultimately it was fine.
So this next challenge that we're talking about, it happened on the arena floor. It was called the Wall of Fame. And so TJ tells them that he's told them to study that wall in the house, which we had never heard, but okay. And in in the house, there's were there 24 of them originally? I think there's 24. So there's 24
I think
pictures, like
so.
one of each challenger, and they were doing something different in the chat in the picture. And in front of them, they had a place to put the answer to each question because there was 24 questions. Each question was like, so the first one was like, who was holding a taquito in their picture? And it was Cyrus. And so you would put
Hmm.
Cyrus's name. And so it was a memory challenge. Uh they did they explain? No, they just said like don't be last. We had no idea what was going to happen based off of this, but they said basically you don't want to be last. So
Yeah, and
all 8 of
everyone was
them,
talking about, like, "I don't wanna be last because I could be going home." Like, "Am I going home?
yeah,
Is it an elimination?" Like, there was no lots of that's the challenge too, like, they never give enough information to
right.
make decisions.
My reaction to this was, "What kind of Big Brother shit is this?" Because I felt like it was a very Big Brother-esque challenge to have them
Oh, like, the
memorizing
memory
this
wall on
picture.
Big Brother.
Yeah,
That's
like,
so
I
funny.
don't watch a lot of Big Brother, but when I saw it, I was like, "This is no." Like,
That's
I'm not a
funny.
fan of this.
Well,
Um
something that, like, it made me think of too was, like, now that I know, every episode, there was always, like, cut to shots to, like, that wall and, like, this picture. I remember specifically there was one where, I forget who like, they threw John A into elimination, and so, like,
Mhm.
the shot lingered on the picture of John A, like, walking in the final, and I was like, "Oh, John A is going in." Like, so, like, little things like that I think are really smart when you, like, are able to look back at it and know.
Yeah.
And so, like, made me think of all those little moments of, like, "Oh, yeah, I do remember when they, like, emphasized the picture or whatever,"
Yeah, I just don't
which is
remember Tito
cool.
telling them, like, "Hey, memorize your house because it could be
Yeah.
important in the Final 4 or
Exactly.
whatever."
Well, it's funny you say it, like, gives you Big Brother vibes because it's for me, it's more the Amazing Race vibes. Like,
Oh,
I feel like
really?
the Amazing Race, like, the final challenge, the Amazing Race is usually some big memory thing that
Mhm.
relates to something from the entire race. So
Oh.
I remember one season they had, like, um, greeters every time they, like, finished a leg, and they said, like, "Hello and thank you," or something in like, a different language from that country, and, like, the final
Mhm.
challenge was, "Put all of these in order of all the people who greeted you," and so it's, like, it just like, knowing what your surroundings are when you're not really on is kind of that final challenge in The Amazing Race, so
That makes sense.
they're getting ideas.
It's because 'cause they're bringing people from these other shows onto
Right,
CBS. Let's give them a leg up.
right.
So, we get into this challenge and Wes crushes it. Like, it seemed like Wes finished quickly, easily, far before anybody else did.
With, like, no trouble at all.
Yeah. And in his confessional, he said he was tired of sandbagging challenges. He's ready to win things, shows what a real all star looks like. And he's like, the rest of them are just throwing shit up there and see what sticks. Like, do your homework, kids.
Yes. Which, like, I appreciate as, like, a television moment, but, like, I call bullshit. Like, I'm sure he's maybe not doing his best in certain challenges, but, like, he didn't throw every single challenge prior to this and is now, like, coming in hot for the final. So, like, sit down, Wes, for a second.
So the only reason, not the only, because I give Wes probably a lot more credit than he deserves, but one of the reasons I believe him is because Nehemiah kind of was doing, at least said he was doing the same thing.
Mm,
So they're boys, they're friends. Wes, as we know, likes to talk game. Like he called Johnny Bananas last week to bounce strategy off of him, right? I could see
mhm,
him and Nehemiah having a sit down conversation of like Wes definitely watches the show. He's not just a contestant on it, he's a fan of it. And so he definitely saw Nehemiah's previous season or like last season where he's the leader of King's Palace. And I could see the two of them sitting down and being like, you got to lay low because you were the big man on campus last season. I
mm.
have to lay low because I'm Wes. Um, so I could see the two of them kind of having that strategy because then it also makes sense. Like, all right, Brad winning as many intellectual challenges as he did over people like Wes and Nehemiah doesn't exactly make the most sense.
That's a
So
good
that's
point.
why I could believe it.
I think you're swaying me, and I see what you're saying. I wish you would have seen that. I wish if
Right.
Wes and Nehemiah did sit down and have that conversation, I wish that, like, was shown because that would have been perfect. I would have bought it.
Hmm.
It would have been like, I love this strategy for them. It just sometimes it, like, comes in as, like, Wes being, his, like, cocky self and saying things, and it's like it's like revisionist history. Like, you're saying it because it's the
Hmm.
way it's, like, happening. But I could see that definitely happening. They are really strategic in that way to, like, be talking about those kinds of things beforehand.
I mean, I think MTV would purposefully not show it because Wes is so divisive. Like, no matter what, if you love Wes or hate Wes, he is bringing you good television when he's on the challenge. And so,
He
I mean,
is the
they
drama.
showed. they showed like his little wink during the trivia one of like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
throw the first thing. So I feel like they've given us glimpses. So if it were to come out where if after the season he's like, no, I definitely like I was trying, but I wasn't 100% trying, or he were to say, no, like Brad beat me fair and square. Like I can't see Wes not getting a memory thing. You know, like the helicopter one. Wes is an
Oh yeah.
Wes is known to be a very strong swimmer, and for Wes to not memorize a 9-piece puzzle correctly, like to me when he did it, when he was one of the two people who didn't get right, I was like, I'm sorry, but this doesn't make sense to
Right.
me. So that there's reasons why I believe it more than not. I think the other
Yeah.
thing is, um, it kept him like once Darrell left and he really tried to slide into that alliance, like he really never had to fuck over Derek or Mark despite being like on the opposite side of the two of them as the numbers wore down. He really was able to be
Mm,
like, do what you want with me. I'll go in. I won't go in, whatever. So I
right.
believe I want to believe him, but I can understand someone who doesn't.
Yeah. I feel like I still don't believe him, but I see your point and where you're coming
Mm-hmm.
from and why that's a debate to have.
Yes. All right. Well, I mean, I know that you're not Team West, and I am the captain of being Team West, so it's fine. It's fine.
I'm not
Nehemiah comes.
anti-West though.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's given some people the reason to be anti-West. I think he has done great things for this series, this season. He has been very entertaining.
I'll give you that.
After West wins, Nehemiah comes in second. And then Janae finishes for the women. So Janae finishes first. She was like very confident, and then it seemed like she was struggling for a bit. She's like,
Yeah.
every meal I ate, I looked at that wall, I got this. And then they show her being like, wrong, check, wrong.
Right.
Check. So, but I
And for
wasn't
someone who like
surprised.
got that perfect, right? She got the perfect like 9-piece with the
Yeah.
helicopter challenge. Like
Yeah.
it's mainly the same challenge, right? You memorize like, but it's a lot more. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's. I was actually kind of surprised she didn't like get it quicker or sooner or like but beasted it like West did.
Mm-hmm.
But it happened and they finished.
Yes. So then I believe the order of it is Mark finishes next, which leaves Brad in last. And then we have Naya, Kayla, and Kellyanne still battling. And Naya notices Kayla cheating off of her.
Ooh,
Kay-
you said it. You said it.
that I
Kate, Carrie, are you there? Maybe I'm not there. Am I frozen or are you frozen? One moment, please. Technical difficulties. Oh, I'm going to move on in case I'm not frozen and Carrie's the one that's frozen. We were talking about the potential of Kayla cheating, and I am on the side of she cheated, but I think the question is fair and we need to pose it for everyone to chime in. So feel free to let us know what you think and your thoughts on this hot topic debate about if whether Kayla cheated or not, and whether or not it's allowed. I feel like there is something to be said about the format of the challenge itself, in that there's two separate like easels and where they can work on. And if you can see someone else's easel, like, is it not fair game? I don't know. Ultimately, I mean, if you want to play like honor system and like debate whether that's a part of the challenge, like maybe there should be barriers in between all the contestants so it's not possible. But if it's possible, that I'm kind of like okay with it. I do think that there's a reason to be upset. So like Naya's not wrong for being upset with it. Um, but I think ultimately like the decision and like what happened is what happened, and there's like production would have chimed in if there was something like wrong or off with like the way the challenge formed out or played out. But yeah. So with that, Kayla does finish the puzzle shortly after Kellyanne finishes the puzzle, and that leaves Naya in last place. So we have Jonna, Kayla, Kellyanne, and Naya as the finishers for this puzzle challenge. And let me go ahead and take a quick little pause while we see if we can get Kari back in here. So one moment, please.
Here?
And we're back. Kari, are you back? There she is. Maybe. Oh, yeah, you're here. You're cutting in and out a little bit, but we'll make that work.
I'm here.
There you are. Okay, that's better. All right. Well, while Kari figures out some of the technical issues she's dealing with, I'll go ahead and just monologue a little bit more about the next part of the challenge. So we have this challenge completed. We have Wes finishing first for the guys and Jonna finishing first for the girls. And so then that's a wrap. TJ comes in saying Naya and Brad are in last place. And remember, we don't know what that means. Like there was a cryptic message from TJ saying, you don't want to come in last. Like what that means, we're not sure. Are they going to be eliminated? Are they going to go into an elimination? Are they going to call somebody down? What's going to happen? But no, ultimately, TJ says, you are all badasses and you have all made my final. So there's a big celebration. Everyone's excited. Brad mentions that it's been over 10 years since he's been in a final. And he's like really excited to get back in there and show what he can do, despite him just coming last place in this challenge and kind of getting a penalty, which was the ultimate consequence of getting last in that challenge, was a penalty at the start of the final. But then we move into like post challenge, pre final stuff, where Naya's upset. Naya's like, Kayla cheated. Kayla should not play like that. I don't like people who play like that. And so Naya and Kayla have a little sit down conversation where Naya calls her out, like, hey, like, you cheated. I don't appreciate that. And Kayla was kind of defending herself in a way that was like, maybe my eyes wandered. Girl, they wandered. Like, you know what you did. And just own it. Like, sure did. I looked at your board because I didn't know what to do. Like, I didn't know the answers to these, and I thought maybe you did. So I just peeked over, and I think that would have been a little bit more like swallowable if for Naya even to be like, kid, like, yeah, I had no idea what they were, and so I looked over at your board and I saw your answers were different, so I changed mine and that worked. So like, I don't know. I feel like if it's fair game, like, go for it. But ultimately, I think Naya has like the best line of the episode when Kayla tells her, like, I don't want this to ruin our friendship. And Naya goes, Kayla, I just met you 4 weeks ago. We're not friends. I think that's just so great. I think I'm gonna start using that with people and just being like, we're not friends. I just met you. Even like my actual good friends, I'll just make jokes to them about like, I just met you 16 years ago. We're not friends. But ultimately, I want to pose this question to everybody listening. Did Kayla cheat? Did what she did, or does what she did like count as cheating? Should she have been disqualified? Let us know. We want to have this conversation, or at least I want to have this conversation. So please let me know what you thought about that whole scenario and that whole debacle. We move into a little bit of like Nia moment where Nia's talking about like the old me would have responded differently to the situation, and like I have matured a lot and I've grown a lot since the last time I was on a challenge. I think we're getting a little bit of a redemption arc for Nia, which is really nice to see, because she seemingly is like someone who has put a lot of effort into like working on herself and like coming back as a better person and responding to things in a better way. And there's a little bit of a callback to Nia's last season where she was eliminated before the final. We're not eliminated. She was pulled from the game for inappropriate reasons. And so there was a little bit of callback, which I was concerned they weren't going to ever address, as to like why Nia never came back, as to why Nia needs this redemption story. But it's been really, really cool to see her kind of throughout the entire season. And just kind of get the opportunity to share who she is and what she's been up to, despite what she had done previously. But Kari, you're back.
I am.
Sorry, I was just monologuing about the episode as you were gone, and I got up to the point where Nia and Kayla were talking about, did she cheat or did she not cheat? And Perfect. I posed that question.
You posed that question to yourself and then answered it.
Yes, but I also posed it to all the listeners, and I want them to get back to me. Like, did she cheat or did she not?
First and foremost, sorry. My Wi-Fi literally just cut out on me. It wasn't even like bad Wi-Fi. Like, it was straight up not existing Wi-Fi. So
wow.
Roommate reset it. I restarted my computer. We seem to be back healthy. Okay. So I apologize. I'm not going to edit this audio because you know what? Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. And if we're not going to ask you to rate this episode 5 stars at the end, we're just going to ask you to skip that whole rating process.
Don't rate it.
just accept us for what we are.
If you thought it was 5 stars, absolutely rate us. If you loved my monologuing or my 30-second bits of silence, like, please. Oops. Don't listen to this back, Kari.
I almost never listen to anything back, actually. No, totally fine. That's my fault. Or, well, I won't say necessarily my fault, but it was my internet's fault. So we're back, though.
I blame it on the 4th of July.
Yeah, this is... America is just going to hell in a handbasket. All right. Do you think Kayla cheated off of Nia?
So, yes, I do. But I don't think that was wrong. Like, This is what I mentioned. I mentioned this a bit ago about, like, if you weren't allowed to do what she did, there would be barriers in place, or there would be a rule against it, or she would be disqualified or DQ'd, right? But, like, if you are allowed to be there and be so close to each other and your eyes can wander and, like, you can back up and, you know what I mean? Like, I think that if it wasn't allowed, she wouldn't have been able to do it. Or if it was intentionally, like, not meant to be happening that way, then there would have been, like, walls in between the two, like, all of the contestants. So I think, like, yeah, ultimately, yeah, she cheated, right? Like, that's not the intended way to do the competition. But if she can physically get it done, like, do what you gotta do, girl. You gotta win this challenge and not be last. So, like, I support it, but I also can understand why Nia is upset about it. Like, both can be true.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Kayla had a point in the fact of, like, she doesn't know if Nia's right. So if you're cheating off of her, how is Kayla still finishing not just in second, but like Nia in 4th? Because Nia also says something at one point like she prevented me from getting 3rd place, which that's not true because
you could have still beat Kellyanne.
Yeah, that's, I don't know. I think that you can be annoyed by it. However, I don't know if it necessarily affects Nia's performance. But this is like classic challenge shit. Like, do you remember? I've brought this up in a different episode. Do you remember there was a regular season challenge where they had to like go through this like room filled with foam to see the lights on a far wall, and Johnny Bananas realized like if you looked up in the far corner you could see the reflection of the the lights.
Of the
So
lights
he
without
like
having to go in. Yeah.
yeah, so he never went in and just like did that. That's the same like type of shit to me. Or like
Genius. Yeah.
if you don't leave, like if you leave your puzzle up and someone copies yours or whatever, it's like you said, if Kayla were to have if it were against the rules, and at the end of it, TJ would have been like, Kayla, you were cheating off of Naya, you automatically are
Mhm.
fourth place.
Right. Yeah. And I think that they do that, right? They call them out. They'll do those kinds of things. Like
Yeah.
that's part of the like challenge is figuring out as you go, and that's also part of the like we make up rules as we go, because like I
Yeah.
think sometimes it could be just like, oh yeah, like Kayla, you cheated, so you're fourth place, and other times they'll be like, oh yeah, that's fine. Like it just it doesn't matter, or it matters when it matters, when they decide that it matters. So I think ultimately like go for it. But I can still empathize with like Naya being upset about it.
Yeah.
I think this also it just like leads into like Naya's like I was mentioning too, like her redemption arc. It's like okay, like
Mhm.
she is responding to this maturely in a way that's not like how she would have responded to things before in previous seasons, and so that leads into like that next portion where she talks to Kayla and is like, you should not have done this. This is not how a true competitor competes, or whatever she says in that regard.
Yeah. I think something about Naya is that, and she's said this, where she does better when she has something outside of herself to compete for. And I could
Mm,
see her using this as like her thing outside of herself. Like, okay, well, now I need to beat Kayla because Kayla, if she wins, like, didn't win the right way. As opposed to
mm,
like, I need to win this because I want to win this. Like, I could see that replacing. Obviously, it's not going to fully replace Jordan being there, whatever. But she said that she needs a reason for things, so maybe that'll help
mm-hmm,
her. I'm not sure. Um, I did just think that it was a I don't know. Clearly you aren't as in on the challenge as like maybe some of the others are, to know that that's kind of run the mill shit. That's why you break
right.
your puzzle down after you get it. That's that's just like what happens here. This is what we do.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yeah.
lie, cheat, and steal.
Right. And like to that point, they were doing that, right? Like I think when Wes finished, he immediately like knocks all the pieces
Yeah.
down, and then I think John A did the same thing.
Mhm.
And usually they do that kind of thing when there's something else coming, like right, they're like it's a race or it's like in the
Yeah.
final, so that they can get a head start of whoever is gonna may potentially copy them and move forward. But this was just that's how it ended. So I was interested to see like why not just leave it up and see if anyone like uses. I mean, you already got first, right? Like Wes already got first place. He already got
Yeah.
the reward. It's not like he's getting a head start um, from leaving his or breaking his puzzle down. So I thought that was interesting. That's become such like a common thing. Just like take your puzzle down, even if there's
Yeah.
no reason to for your benefit at least moving forward.
I mean, at that point they didn't know what was going to happen to the person who loses. So like I understand, especially for like Wes, that you likely don't want Mark to win if you think that someone, or not to win, but like you want Mark to come in last, because if the worst thing that happens is the fourth place person is being eliminated or like purged right before the final, then
Right.
you don't want Mark copying it. So like at that point I can understand them like destroying their answers because you don't know what's happening to the person in last.
Hmm.
So that makes a little bit of sense to me.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Hmm.
So based off of what I heard, I think you were at the house and you were talking about Kayla and Naya's conversation, and how um, Naya was saying like Kayla's lucky I've evolved as a person.
Yeah, basically, she's like, old Naya would have responded to this much differently. Like, I've
Hmm.
grown and matured a lot, and she's lucky that that's happened to me. And
Hmm.
I mentioned too, it's just so funny. She had like the quote of the episode when they were like discussing, and Kayla goes like, "I don't want this to ruin our friendship," and then Naya goes, "Kayla, I just met you 4 weeks ago. We're not friends."
Hmm.
And I just love that so much. I feel like Naya has like, and she doesn't seemingly seem to be like putting it on for the cameras. Sometimes you get those fun lines from people who are really good, like in the confessionals or like wanting to say funny things for TV. That was just Naya being there, like this is how I feel, like not for a show or anything. And so it was just like a
Mm-hmm.
perfect way to like shut Kayla out and just be like, you're doing the most and you just admit that you cheated.
Yeah, I liked that Naya was upfront about it. She definitely could have. If it was old Naya, I think this would have gone a lot worse. But like, that's also part of the reason that this is All Stars and it's not.
Carrie? Oh no, not again. Wait, am I frozen? Oh wait, no, I think it's you. Da, 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 da. I think what Carrie was gonna say is that that's part of the reason why it's All Stars, because a lot of these things can like a water off a duck's back. Like I think a lot of these contestants will be a lot more lenient and a lot more willing to like forgive and forget these types of things. Whereas like on the main stage challenge, like those will be rivalries for years, and people will hate you for X thing that you did to them 16 years ago. I think, well, actually, now that I think about it, remember in season 1 of All Stars when Trishelle was upset with Katie for something that happened 16 years ago? It was a whole thing in the episode, and Katie even freaked out on her. Sorry, I digress. But I think that's like the intention. I think is people playing All Stars aren't as not that they're not as serious, but they're not as like this is not their livelihood. Playing these things is not necessarily what is their internal motivations. Maybe they're a lot older, so they have a lot more things to like be concerned about. Like the challenge is not their world, whereas I feel like these younger in their 20s contestants like really bank on the challenge giving them a call to move forward in life and to be like known and famous and get deals, whatever it may be. So I feel like that's kind of what Carrie was getting at. We'll let her chime in more when she gets back. Um, but I think that is the biggest. Hello.
I don't know what's going on over here.
It's okay. We troubleshoot and we move on and move forward.
Annoying.
I was just filling in with what I thought you were about to say. So now you can go ahead and say what you were actually going to say.
I already forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, I would be like really disappointed if we had like physical violence on All Stars.
Mm. Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at, but that's not what I said.
Yeah, I just part of them being All Stars is like they're get involved in like the mental gymnastics of it all. But to me, like if
Mm.
it were to resort to physical violence, I think I would be upset about it.
Yeah, I can see that too. I feel like in like the regular challenge, like those are always like really big high points. It's like, oh, like it's like a part of the trailer and it's like the
Yeah.
next time on, like see who gets into this fight. And I feel like now if that happens, it's like, oh, like way to put a damper on the season or like, yeah, that's a good actually way to put it. And I think that the way that Niall's responding is like it's almost like that was so like regular challenge Naya, this is
Mhm.
All Stars Naya. Like this is how you
Yeah.
respond in an All Star way, almost.
Yeah. After this conversation between Naya and Kayla, we get other check-ins with other players. So Janae and Naya. And like I didn't like that Naya said that can't be at peace with making the final because Kayla cheated off of her. Like to me, that's just a step too far.
Yeah, but you know, it's in the emotional state you're in. You just say the things.
Yeah. We get Mark saying that like he's proud of being a 50-year-old in the final. And I actually thought that he was going to die during that massage from Kelly.
That was so weird. Why is Kellyanne giving Mark a massage?
I don't know if she's like a masseuse. I don't think she's masseuse stuff, but she's
I thought
definitely
she was
like
like a vet or something.
I don't think she's a vet. I think she maybe works with it. She wants to make like an
Oh,
animal
an animal
sanctuary with the
sanctuary.
money. Yeah. She does yoga stuff. Like her and Kendall have like a yoga business together.
Interesting.
But
It would just seem
so
incredibly like weird to see her. It's also it was like the end of a scene and like the start of a new scene, and it's just like Mark's face, like
Yeah, he
because
looked
she's giving
very
him a massage.
uncomfortable. Not that I'm promoting anyone to watch the video of this because there's a lot of like dead time and stuff, but if you want to see a funny face that Tito just made, it's at the
Oh yes,
45-minute mark.
please. Yes, please screenshot that, send it out, make it your contact photo.
After we get Wes and Kellyanne in a room together, and Wes saying that he's proud that they got to do this together, and even though Kellyanne annoys him sometimes, that after breaking up 10 years ago, they like get to end this on a good note.
Which was kind of cute. I like forgot that they dated until earlier this season when they like mentioned it again. But
Mm-hmm.
also, it's just great. He's like, I find you to be incredibly annoying at times, and Kellyanne's just like, hmm. It's like he can say something to insult you, but it's like, wow, that was so nice.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why she was like, wow, that was so kind of you. But it is like cool to see. I feel like for like longtime fans, like who like know that history, like to see it come
Mm-hmm.
back, it's like, oh, that's really like this is for the fans, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Janae calls her husband, and when they showed her FaceTiming someone, I'm not gonna lie, I'm like, is she gonna FaceTime MJ right now?
Oh,
So
wait, I did not think of that. That would have been good.
yeah, when I saw it, I
Dang.
was like, is she calling MJ?
Oh
Is she,
god, that would have been so uncomfortable.
is she letting MJ know she's in the finale? But um, we get the typical like, I miss my family. I'm doing this for my family. I'm missing like important things at home speech from Janae and like every other
Hmm.
person who has kids at home that like, okay, we get it.
Yeah.
You miss MJ too.
Yeah, I think this was like, I think we get this for each of the women in the finals. This was like Janae's like moment of like, ooh, like could she be our winner? I feel like
Mm-hmm.
if you like, read into the edit a little bit, it's like, ooh, like we're getting her like family moment, and she's getting a little bit of a highlight here. And so I wrote that down as like a, could this be like what we're seeing from Janae prior to the final to reflect back to at the end of the final when she's our winner ultimately. So I like pointed that out, and then I think Kayla, Kellyanne, and Nia also have these moments, which when we get there, I'll mention those again.
Yeah. Next is Kayla, where she's the last one in the treehouse. No one
Hmm.
is left. They had a 7-person alliance, and she is the only one in the finale, which is kind of crazy.
Isn't it? I feel like
Yeah.
I remember this, like it being this like dominant force, and not even realizing they were being like demolished. Oh, I mean, I guess like three of them, right? Three of them left without being eliminated.
Yeah.
So I think there's like a probably a big what if kind of thing where like if things played out differently, like maybe more of them are there. But I think Kayla kind
Mhm.
of stands out as our single like tribute to like win it for the treehouse.
Mhm.
And then this is the moment for her, I think, where she's like, I'm the last one standing. I have a wedding coming up. Like we're getting a little bit of insight into her. And so this is like the moment I realized, like, oh, like is Kayla gonna be our winner? Like at the end of
Yeah.
the final, is she gonna be the one who like, yes, like I won this money for my wedding, like whatever it is. Yeah, there's like these little pieces for each of them.
I don't know how far the treehouse would have made it regardless of them being a 7-person alliance, simply because that twist of if you get put into elimination, you can call down whoever you want, really like takes like that really mixes up the whole having the numbers, because if someone in not your alliance wins, like they're calling someone in your alliance down, and then it's just a matter of who wins and who loses. So I do
Right.
like that, like in hindsight, that how many times, especially on like recent MTV seasons, are the people who are left like it's just because they were in the majority alliance. Like that's it. They had the numbers. They
Hmm.
didn't like have to win out in some competitions or like not come in last and like didn't have to go into elimination. With this, like I like that it keeps everyone on their toes, and that while having a social game is important, it really brings it back to the core of in order to win, you have to be able to beat somebody in an elimination.
Right. Exactly. And I think it took away from some of that like decision making and strategy because like no one was gonna go home because someone had already gone home. But I do think it like maybe helped Kayla move forward. I feel like Kayla's a strong person, probably could have won some eliminations here and there, but I feel like
Mhm.
ultimately, um, because Veronica and Jemmy and Tina were gone, like those eliminations didn't happen. But I could have seen a moment where, maybe Kellyanne is in and calls in Kayla, like, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
Nia is put in and calls in Kayla. I feel like Kayla was one of the ones who they would have targeted first before maybe even like a Tina or a Jemmy. So I could see like that being a benefit for Kayla ultimately too, is the way that those things played out, because I could see maybe Veronica is the last one standing versus Kayla. Um, so it's all what ifs.
Yeah. And I mean, what I like about this format that we had is it's the elimination before the finale, or like before the final, right? And Mark is putting his number one in. Like,
Mm,
how many other seasons does it happen where he's putting his number one in to, and like his number one is okay with it? Like, that doesn't happen on many other seasons. That's just kind
right.
of like crazy to me, but in a way, I mean, I think it was the smartest move, unless like he puts Brad in, and that, whatever, that's a whole other thing. But Brad was pretty insulated at that point. Um, that it
Do
just
you
like
think?
added a different component.
Yeah. Do you think Brad would have called out Derek still?
For pole wrestle, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like that's why it had to have been done, right? Because there was like Derek's going in no matter what. Like we know that, and so like it was the optimal move, I think. But that is super fascinating, right? That like it's come down to like we have to put in our best, or our number one allies, because it's the optimal move to do that versus
Yeah.
not.
So definitely interesting. After we
Hmm.
get Naya Nehemiah in the gym, and Naya saying that she wants to be Nehemiah's number one, the person that he chooses to run as much of the final with as possible, if that's how it's set up. And Naya says, like, I could be a dog when I need to be. I will die before I quit, and I am a fourth quarter performer.
Fourth quarter performer. I loved this from Naya. I think this is the moment for her where it's like, is she our winner? Is she the one? Like, is she calling her shot and she's like gonna pull out this win after being kind of underestimated, maybe not the most visible person on the season? I love that she's talking about strategy with Nehemiah, and like this is someone who I can like align myself with and like trust moving forward. So yeah, this was great. I think that Naya has been a really, really like a treat this season for me. I'd love to see her back, and I want her to see more of her too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that she's getting a chance to show that she's grown. I think that one of the MTV struggles with this, like, there's people that they will blackball in the moment because of what is going on, like in the real world, and not the TV show, but the actual world in the moment of like politically what's happening. So, oh, we have to do this because of this one comment or this thing. And like, Naya had her issues a long time ago, and I mean, she's taken a long break from it, and so giving her at least the opportunity to come back and show that like people can grow and stuff. And then I do think there's other people that like they do need to take a longer break and maybe work on themselves a little bit more. So it's definitely interesting, but I'm glad that Naya has gotten that chance, and she has shown she's been in situations where old Naya would have done some shit, and present Naya is like, let me just keep this together and channel it for something better.
Yeah, and I think that like we get a little bit of that, like full circle piece too. Like I'll jump forward just a tiny bit at the very start of the final. TJ goes to Naya and says, "Naya, this is a redemption final for you," and she goes, "Absolutely." Like she's like
Mm-hmm.
serious. She's like in it, and like all that just comes like together really nicely for her to like have this big ultimate face-off challenge to see what she can do.
Mm-hmm. So before the final, we have all the women sitting at like a counter in the kitchen, and they're
Well,
cheersing. Did
why
you notice?
night?
Yeah, did you notice that John A was cheersing with the whole bottle? The other three women had glasses, and
No, I did not
he
notice
had the
that.
whole bottle.
What a legend. I love that. I'm gonna go back and find that.
And
Well, I'm
then
gonna go back.
we
I'm gonna find that, screenshot it, and then like make it into a meme, like all my friends versus me.
yeah, she had the bottle and the other three women had glasses. Um, and then we have Wes come in his underwear, and
Ghost in the kitchen. I
yeah,
literally wrote ghost in the kitchen. Wes is so pale.
Yes, he is very white in all of that.
Yes.
Um, and his underwear like doesn't do him any favors in terms of just like blending in with the color of his skin. So
It was such like a bizarre moment. It was like I don't like what did they even say? Like I don't even know what happened like in terms of like conversations. It's just like we just have to show Wes being super white in the kitchen. Like I
well,
don't understand.
Wes came in and he was they were like, "Oh, do you want to cry with us, Wes?" And they showed him eating or drinking a Gatorade and eating like a baguette basically. And
Right. His
this is when
prep
it
for the final.
yeah, this is where it cuts to Wes being like, I start preparing for the final 4 days ahead of time. I carbo load, I drink lots of water, I get lots of electrolytes. He's like, these people staying up late, drinking and celebrating are idiots. Like, I've almost died in every single final I've been in, and I still keep coming back, which is pretty sociopathic, but it's also very exciting. So, like, I
Mm.
think part of it was to show like Brett, or I just said Brett, that's my roommate. Wes
No,
is
Brett.
there. Hey, hi Brett. Wes is there eating a baguette. That's the where I was going. Like to show, yeah, he is carbo loading. He's just fucking straight up eating. Like John A's got a whole bottle of wine, and Wes has a whole loaf of bread.
A whole baguette.
These are two different people prepping in two different ways.
Yes. But you know, they're both correct.
Yeah, whatever gets the job done.
Right. Janae is the last champion, so she did something right.
That's true. So we get to the final. They are like flying in a little private little plane, small thing, up to the start of it. John A like peed in a bag on the way up
Okay.
there.
Yes, I'm glad you brought this up because I was like, what is I was like, did Janae shit on a plane? Like, what is going on?
She might
Like,
have. I assume she
it's
peed,
like,
but
why would
maybe
she,
she took a shit and
but like, why would she pee in a paper bag?
yeah, that's true. Maybe it was a
Like,
shit.
wouldn't that just, so I was like, did she literally just poop in a paper bag?
But I think like the planes usually have like barf bags and those have like the lining in them.
So to make them
Because
like waterproof or whatever.
yeah, so maybe it was that. I don't know, but she did some sort of going to the bathroom on the plane. Absolutely.
Yes. And I love that that
I
was shown. Because that was like for sure filmed by them, right? Like, I'm sure they had like a little
yeah,
like webcam or something,
yeah,
camcorder, and they, so like to, for them to be recording themselves to be put on TV, that's kind of cool.
yeah.
Even if it is waste.
So once they get off the plane, we get a little bit of a weather report. It is very humid, like the sun isn't even out yet and it's very hot. So that will likely play a factor into this final. And then we have them lined up. TJ gives the intro that you were talking about. So we have like John A, you've been in every single final in All Stars. And um Naya, this is your redemption one. They did another one. Oh, Brad, like you haven't been in a final in like 10 years or something.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
get a little check in with a few of them. But then he explains how this final is going to work. And I am excited to talk to you about this. So, Wi Fi, you better keep your fucking ass working because this is what I've been waiting for. Uh,
This is good.
okay, so let's explain it first and we'll talk about it. There are multiple checkpoints, and they are going to work with someone from the opposite sex for each checkpoint. The first pair that finishes the checkpoint will get 4 points, the second pair, 3 points, the third pair, 2 points, and the last pair will get 1 point. Then, once they get to the checkpoint, as they get there, there's going to be basically like podiums. We'll just call it podiums. So, uh, there will be 4, and then as people fill in, they get to choose who they go against. So, like the first pair that and a podium, and then the next pair can either choose to face off against who is there, or they can take the other 2 empty podiums, causing the third and fourth pairs to decide who they're going to go against. So they're not acting as pairs in this for this part, though. They're acting as individuals. So essentially, it could be like, let's say Kayla and Wes finish first, and then Naya and Nehemiah finish second. So Naya can either choose to pair up with Kayla, or she can go to another one and wait for Kellyanne and Janae to get there. Say Kellyanne gets there third, then she clearly has to pick, do I want to go against Naya or Kayla? And then Janae would be with whoever's left. So there are these like 1v1 match-offs, and the winner of each one gets 5 points. The loser doesn't get any points. In addition, which we don't find out to the end of the first checkpoint, but I want to establish it now, the order you finish your checkpoint in, those 1v1 matchups, that determines who you run the next leg with. So a lot of what happens in this is performance-based. There is not so much the equity that we have seen in previous finals on MTV. I think of like the one that Jordan won, where like you had each man runs with each woman at least or once, and then like total time or whatever it may be. You could potentially run with the same partner. It all depends on how you finish and how the opposite sex finishes in the checkpoint. Did I explain everything?
That was awesome. That was so informative, and I love it.
Thank you. This is one of the things I've carried over from being a teacher is I've always been very good, in my opinion, at explaining things well. That's
Yes.
always been, as a high school math teacher, you have to be good at explaining things or you are not good at your job, straight up. So, thank you. I appreciate
Straight
that.
up.
All right. Other little quirks to throw into this before you and I start talking about it. We finally find out what these fucking stars are for.
We finally find out what these fucking stars are for, and it's so silly.
Yeah.
Isn't it not like so silly?
To me, I see both. Like, I think for how little we knew about the stars, I appreciate that it's not something that can potentially just make it where because Nehemiah and Janae had the most stars, they're automatically going to win this final. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because to me, like, not to go too teacher on this, but I'm not a big believer in the fact of like, I don't think that like one day should really, or maybe no, it's the opposite of it. Because I guess like your performance throughout, so maybe I do want stars to forget anything I said in the last minute. I like the fact that it doesn't, at least it doesn't seem, based on what we've seen so far in terms of the points, that Janae and Nehemiah have 5 points ahead of everybody else is going to, like, it just sets them apart from everyone else. So I'm glad that it wasn't something too dramatic. However, for how built up the stars were, it's like, oh, it's just 5 points.
Mm-hmm. And that's the
It's
thing
not
too. So
something
like
else.
that's what it is, right? So Nehemiah and Janae get 5 points to start because they have the most stars. But to me, it's also like, well, Mark had 4 stars. Naya had 2 stars. Like, you know, like what happened? Like,
Yeah.
those are just not important. Those don't mean anything. Like, I wish it would have been like, okay, you have 5 stars, you get 5 points. Mark, you have 4 stars, you're starting with 4 points. Naya, you have 2 stars, you're gonna start with 2 points. You know, like if that were the case, I'd be more on board. Or even if it was like, okay, Janae, you're in first place because you have 5 stars. Naya, you're in second. Kayla and Kellyanne, you're both in third. So like that then correlates to the rest of the final rules. Like Naya or Janae comes in first place, she automatically gets 4 points. Naya comes in second place, she automatically gets 3 points. Like, you know what I mean? I want there to be more variance. I feel like the rest of the format is really cool. I really like how you're able to like choose if you want to go against somebody or choose another option or choose against 2 options if you're, you know what I mean? Like, I like the amount of options and like choices they get. But this just seemed like very like why? Like, it just seemed that there were better options than what was given. So,
and I think you bring up a great point, because I think a common complaint amongst the challenge fans is how many people get to the final without having gone into an elimination. The people who've like given, good on you having a great strategy, like social strategy or whatever, but that also then would reward the people who've won eliminations and come back, and not just one person. Because like John A got one of her stars not through elimination; it was because Veronica broke her
Right.
fucking toe. And Nehemiah only won one elimination. Derek did all the work.
Right.
Derek had to win a couple of them, and then Nehemiah won it to take it from him. So,
and Derek
I
had to beat MJ, right? MJ had 3,
yeah.
and Derek beat MJ, so he got his, and then Nehemiah beat Derek. Yeah, it's like a whole cycle.
So I wouldn't mind like what you're saying of okay, give like you have 5 stars, you get 5 points, 4 stars, 4 points, 1 star, 1 point. I think that would be fair because then it's like, hey, earn your stripes, go into elimination and see how it
Yeah.
benefits you at the end. So I definitely would support that entirely.
Which, like, would
Absolutely.
also, like, if we knew about that, like, if they knew, like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, we won't tell you what the points mean, but if you have 5 stars at the start of the final, you'll get 5 points.
Mm-hmm.
Like giving them like even that much more information, like maybe it does turn into like a school situation where like we need to go in to get these stars, or we need
Yeah.
to go in to get our school. I have like thoughts about the whole school thing, but we'll talk about that another time. But like the idea of like you have to have like a sense of motivation to do something, and like I think that was probably another reason why Kayla was pissed that she didn't do an elimination, is that she
Mm-hmm.
wanted those stars and seeing what that meant for her, because she went into the final with 1 star, like last place, right? And so, but it ultimately doesn't mean anything because Naya, who had 2 stars, started off on the same foot that Kayla did with 1 star. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just wish there was more to it than there was. But I guess I appreciate it not being like you said, like the whole fate of the final was in these stars.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you think about it, like Mark probably had the most elimination wins out of the people who were left. Brad never saw an elimination. Nehemiah only had the 1. Wes only had the 1. Mark had 2. And Mark had to send home Jordan. And who
And
did he
LT,
go with? Who was it?
Latarian, LT.
Oh, yeah. In that lot, like I was seeing the whole contraption. I just couldn't remember who it was
Yeah.
against. You know what I mean? So like, it kind of sucks for Mark. Mark, the 50-year-old who had to prove himself twice in elimination, is like not
Mm-hmm.
benefiting from that, and Nehemiah is. And what's funny is that like Mark put Nehemiah in the situation to kind of do that since he let
Right.
Derek pick. I don't know. It's kind of crazy. I do think that you have a great point. Like, let people give them the points from their stars. I would definitely support that. And like you said, I like this whole points part of it because something that's happened in past finals is when they make it time based, and it's very hard to tell who is and isn't winning, who, like, how long did that actually take. um I think there's less manipulation that can happen from
Mm-hmm.
our end of like not knowing what's going on. So I liked that it was point based and it wasn't time based.
Agreed. And I like that they're showing us the points. Like after each
Yes.
checkpoint, they're like, "This is how it looks right now," and I was like, "Oh, this is great," because like I want to know where they are. Like, oh, Kayla just overtook John A after this checkpoint. Like we have to keep an eye on that. Like that kind of stuff is really
Mm-hmm.
like for a viewer really important. Because otherwise, you're just watching people do stuff. Like, and then you'll find out who wins at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think it was a part of the whole time thing too. Is like when it's time, you don't know where they are, and the checkpoints are added up later, and we just have to trust whoever's doing this math to like get it right. I don't know. It's a lot better to see it to view it this way.
I also think that it adds in the opportunity, and I don't know if anyone will take advantage of this, to manipulate things a little bit and so that you can run with a partner you want to. You know what I mean? Like, okay,
Yes.
let's pretend that Wes has like a 6-point lead and he wants to run the last leg with Kayla, right? So
Mm-hmm.
can he take, because I think of the women, Kayla's probably the best runner. So let's,
That's fair.
can, like, does Wes take the hit on the checkpoint so that he matches up his finishing? So like, say like Kayla loses her checkpoint, she comes in third of the 4 women, and so like does Wes purposely do that so that he gets to run with Kayla? Yes, he loses that 5-point lead, he only has a 1-point lead, but is it worth getting to run with Kayla and be confident he's like to get 4 points versus, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that will happen, but I do think that it adds in an extra level of like, you are only as fast as the slower person in your partnership. So do you take a hit somewhere, or like does it motivate you in terms, like if you're John A and you want to run with Brad, like, oh shit, Brad just came first, let me, like, I have to finish first out of the 4 of us so I can run with Brad next time. Like, I think that it adds a potential level of strategy that could be harder to manipulate, but I also don't think is like impossible to manipulate either, especially if they know they're going into the final leg. I mean, we saw it last year on All Stars. The only person who figured out the safe, all of them were at the safe. The only person who figured it out was John A. Like, you probably want to be with someone smart at the last one,
right.
You know, that like, if you can control a bit of that, then maybe you throw something one place so you gain in another. I don't know.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's super like smart, and I could see that happening, you know, in a future season. I feel like probably not now, like it's like too new and too fresh to like be able to game right away. But you know, give someone the opportunity to watch this season and then live a final. Like maybe they do think that way, or even if they had just a little bit more time, like maybe over the overnight, will think of like, oh shit, like I want to make sure that tomorrow I'm only running with Kayla and John A for the last 2 because Nia and Kellyanne have not been turning it. You know what I mean? Like maybe he does think of that and wants to implement that. But I think that's really smart, right? If you know, like, oh, and also if you knew what was coming up, that would be really smart too. Like if you know, hey, like the next checkpoint is going to be an 8-mile run, like who do I want to run with? 8 miles. Like, oh, the next checkpoint is this huge memory puzzle. Like I want to make sure I get John A. So like if they knew what the next checkpoints were, like that would probably play even more role into like figuring all that out. But that's just again more options, more layers, which I love. Like that would be great if that became like more consistent throughout the finals and stuff.
Yeah, I like this format. I'm definitely interested in this format and seeing how it plays out. Like I do think there's room for improvement, but in the grand scheme of things that we've seen, I like this one.
Yeah, me too. I like it a lot. It's a huge step up from like previous finals where, like you mentioned, right? Like they all of the men are going to be partnered with all of the women at some point, but like when that is like predetermined, even like, oh, you'll alternate between, versus this is like there's a reason behind why you're a partner with somebody. So it's not all just like, you know, you don't get stuck with the person who can't run during the running checkpoint. It's like, no, you all finish at a certain point and that's why you're partners. So yeah. My vote, I give it an A for this format.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how it all works out. To like if I like it as much at the end, if I do at the beginning.
Yeah, same, right? Like we're talking, giving it all this praise, and then we're gonna watch the next episode
and
be
it's like, oh, fuck this
boo.
thing. Yeah.
That was stupid.
All right, so our first checkpoint, they have to run to a key and then
Oh no, Kari, come back. We were doing so well. Kari. Well, the first checkpoint, they had to run to a key and then run to like the next station where they were choosing, like Kari mentioned earlier, like a podium essentially to start like the next like one-on-one battle with the other all-star. So because of the previous finish in the last challenge, Wes and John A get to start the final first. And so they take off running. And then I think it's like 30 seconds later, Nehemiah and Kayla start running. And then like 30 seconds after that, we get Mark and Kellyanne start running. And then 30 seconds after that, we get Nia and Brad start running. And so it's like kind of cool. You get to see all of them like running along the super long field, and like you get like overhead shots of like them running. So you could see them like how close they are to each other. It was really cool. So yeah, they have to get these keys, and then they have to run towards these stations where they are going to choose their opponents for like the one-on-one battle. While they're running, there's like a funny point where I think John A and Wes are running, and he goes, "And that's an armadillo," and like an armadillo like runs in front of them. You can see it on their cameras. But seemingly, like, this doesn't really seem to cause a lot of stir up or drama. It's just a big run they have to do. John A like, overheats and gets tired, but ultimately is fine. Seemingly, Nehemiah and Kayla are like good runners, and there really isn't too much trouble with this first run. Right, Kari?
Yeah. My router gave me like the red light of death at
Oh
that one.
no,
I hadn't
not
gotten
the
that
red
one yet.
light.
So shit.
The red light.
Yeah, the other ones are just the white light blinked at me, but this one was like, nope, you're in trouble this time. We're gone. Dead
It's
on
okay.
arrival.
It's okay because we're getting through the final now. So
Yes, we're almost there. So you talked about the pairs for this one.
yeah, so I talked about how they started due to their finish in the last challenge, and
Mm-hmm.
just like it was a run to the key and then a run to the station to get there.
So something that kind of annoys me is in this run, like Mark says, he is built like a Mack truck and he's not for runs. Buddy, you're not meant for finals then. Like, I would
Right.
have rather seen Dick there. You know, like Derek
Oh, for
can
sure.
run,
Derek can
you
run, and
know?
he's like not one to like even like say that. Like, oh, like I feel like
Mm-hmm.
even if Derek is like, oh, I can't do that, that's not meant for me. He's like, I'm still gonna give it my all.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Mark
So,
was like, this is not for me.
yeah.
It's like, sir.
Um, I thought it was funny when Wes was like, "Oh, it's an armadillo," as they're just like running
Yes.
casually.
Yes, I did say that when you were gone. It was like a moment where like he was like, Janae's overheating, she's tired. There's an armadillo.
Mhm. So, did you get to once they actually got to the checkpoint?
No, that's where I was just about to start as
Perfect.
everyone arrived. So lead us in.
We've got this raft. You have to put the pieces going across the top together. So it was like a little bit of a puzzle. And then once you built your raft, you had to row out to a buoy and then circle around the buoy and come back. So, a little bit, I mean, like classic shit here where, you know, there's some rowing involved, a little bit of puzzle involved. And the matchups are Naya versus Janae, Kellyanne versus Kayla, Brad versus Wes, and Nehemiah versus Mark. So
Yes.
Wes builds his first, but then he was like, the only person I need to beat is Brad. But of course, Brad like finishes his second.
Right.
And they were pretty like neck and neck going out to the buoy. And like Brad tried to take the inside turn on the buoy with Wes, and it didn't work out. And Wes ends up winning the two of them.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting to see too, because if you remember, like in the duel, Wes and Brad were the final two, like battling out in the final. So it's like cool to see them back, like battling it out for like potentially right the top two spots in this final too. It's like a whole throwback moment.
Yeah, absolutely. We get Naya passing Janae, and she was so excited because she said, Janae is the queen bee of this thing.
Mm-hmm. And then she goes, "Bye, girl."
Yeah. Especially after Janae's like awful performance on the stand-up paddleboard
Yes.
earlier in the season. So good on you, Naya. We're proud of you. And then Nehemiah wins against Mark, and Wes is confused because Nehemiah is using the one-sided oar as a paddle, like if you go kayaking where there's like a paddle part on each end. So he's like using the paddle part on one side but then the stick on the other, and it was working.
If it works, it works. You gotta do what you
Right.
gotta do, and he got his points for that. That was so funny. It was like funny to see because it's like you would think that he's struggling so much, but like he got it done. So
Yeah, it worked. And when I watched it too, I'm like, oh shit, okay. That is
I
weird.
guess right.
So Naya ends up being Janae, Caleb ends up being Kellyanne, and Kellyanne says, like, once I realized Caleb's gonna win this, I stopped trying. I just floated out there and waited for them to come rescue me. And they show her like the boat pulling up, and she's like, oh,
Yes.
thank you so much.
Which, like, in the moment, I was like, what do you mean? Like if everyone else has to extend the effort to get this done and tire
Mm-hmm.
themselves out, you should too, even if you're getting last place. Like, there's like a little piece of me that's just like, that's not fair. She gets to just sit on the boat on the way back and not have to exert that energy. Like, fishy.
If Kayla can cheat off of Naya, then Kellyanne can get rescued by a boat.
Fair enough.
I love how they like go out to her and she's singing like it fucking blows. Like she's like singing her misery.
Probably helped her
Yeah.
feel better about it.
So our 4 winners were Nehemiah, Wes, Naya, and Kayla. And then our 4 losers were Mark, Brad, Janae, and Kellyanne. A points update here is Nehemiah's in first place with 13, Wes has 9, Mark has 2, Brad has 1. For the women, Janae has 9, Kayla has 8, Naya has 6, and Kellyanne has 2. So we start the second checkpoint. The new pairs are Nehemiah and Naya because they finished first for the men and women. Then Wes and Kayla, they each finished second. Then Mark and Janae, and then Kellyanne and Brad. So for this second one, we get a tandem bike. They have to run till they get to a tandem bike, and then they have to ride this tandem bike.
Oh, the bikes.
Yeah. I liked how Brad was like, TJ, you're a biker. Why do you give us these shitty things?
These shitty ass bikes. Literally every time. And I don't get it. Like I have a bike, right? And I've used a bike my entire life, and bikes break, right? They break often, but
Yeah.
they should not break this often in challenges. Like, I feel like you need to invest in some good bikes that will not break when you're using them for one checkpoint in a challenge. Like, if the entire purpose of the challenge is to bike, like, then the bike should not break. And I feel like this happens too often where the bike breaks in these challenges, and I'm over it. Get rid of these bikes.
Right. I mean, we saw it last season too. I get it because, like, at least the tandem bike, it's one bike and it's not the 2 chained together. Although both
the
are
chain
bad.
bikes thing. I remember the chain bike thing being like, what, like, y'all couldn't get a tandem bike? It just like it seems so like low budget. Like, let's chain these bikes together, you know?
Yeah.
But I guess now they gave us tandem bikes, and now I'm mad about that too. So I
No
can
more
never be
bikes.
pleased.
Unicycles
Just don't
only.
do bikes.
Tricycles.
Ooh, like hoverboards. Get them like some scooters or something.
All of the pairs for this one got to start at the same time, which I liked because even though the points that they got from the stars were obviously beneficial, even more so, in my opinion, was that staggered start in that first checkpoint. Like, it was going to be very hard for the 4th team, to Brad and Naya, to catch up to the first team in a 2-minute head start, or I guess a 90-second head start in a run.
Yeah.
Like, 90 seconds is a lot in that distance of run. So
right. It didn't seem like it was super, super long to where you could like tire out and catch up. So like if you could, maintain a pace, you weren't going to catch anybody. And so sure enough, they ended the way they started.
It'd be one thing if it was like the last leg when everyone's exhausted, but when it's the first one, that's difficult.
Right.
So during this section, Brad's legs start cramping, and at one point, like, Brad's laying there and Kellyanne's basically just like punching his thighs. Kellyanne has had to be the medic of this whole final episode for these men.
She's been giving Mark massages, she's patting Brad's legs, and then she like provided some closure for Wes and their relationship 10 years ago. She really has been the MVP of the episode.
So then we get Wes saying that this feels like a gruesome date that he's on this tandem bike with Kayla. And Brad and Janae's bike broke. Was it Brad? No, it was Mark and Janae. I wrote the wrong thing. I had to look at my pairs. Yeah, because it was Mark being like, this chain, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So
yeah. And then there was a flashback to All Stars 1 where he like broke the pedal off the bike with a knee.
Yeah. So Mark and Johnny's bike broken, and then that allows Kellyanne and Brad to pass them during this, which I don't know why they took as long to try and fix it versus like that tandem bike can't be that heavy. Mark,
Yeah.
you are the size of a small tree.
You
Just
are a
carry
Mack
it.
truck. You said so
Yeah.
yourself.
Put
Put that in your
that.
caboose and let's
Yes.
go.
Exactly. Like you guys clearly weren't going to fix a bike. Just
Mhm.
carry it, roll it. Like
And they were seemingly already walking it anyway. Like they were like
yeah.
barely riding it. Like just like do a little jog with it and get it going. Like don't sit there and wait any longer. Maybe they could have, outrun Kellyanne and Brad. Kellyanne and Brad? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And gotten that extra point. But yeah, it seemed like a lost cause at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. So Wes and Kayla finished first. Kellyanne and Brad actually end up finishing second. Nia and Nehemiah finished third. Janae and Mark finished fourth. So in this, we get the matchups forming. So Nia picked Kellyanne. Nehemiah picked Brad, which meant Wes and Mark went against each other, and Kayla and Janae went against each other.
Mm-hmm.
And this checkpoint activity, it has this star sequence. So there are 4 rows with, my guess is maybe like 10 stars in each row.
That sounds right.
I think so. And 1 star in each row it does not match the answer key. So the answer key, it didn't seem too far away. It seemed like
Mm-hmm.
a somewhat close distance. You had to
Right.
run to the answer key and then run back to your board and say it was like the 4th star in the first row, the 5th star in the second row, the 8th star in the third row, and the 9th star in the last row that were off from the answer key, and your code was 4589. You would run up to the box, put the code in, you win. So, again, we get Wes crushing it.
Mm-hmm.
He did finish it first, and TJ even said like he like complimented him, and then Wes being Wes is like genius stuff. That's not a rumor. These are just cold hard facts. As the kids say, 100.
100. Yes, and then there's like if you like look behind him, you can see TJ just like looking at him like, what is this fool doing? Like on TV. But yeah, it was really good. Like it was like I like these kinds of like puzzle memory challenges because they're not too complicated. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
they're not like if like anyone could do it, right? It's just a matter of like remembering, running back and forth. It's not like one of those things where it's like if you don't get it, you don't get it. Like the last challenge where they had to like answer these questions, and if you don't know it, then you don't know it. This was like one that you could very easily work around and work through if you have enough time and like patience.
Yeah. And I said, she was like, oh, I noticed this where the bottom part of each star is a different color. I don't know if the rest were that way. Like I'm wondering if like the top point on the star, all of them were different. However, they figured that out. So Naya used that to beat Kellyanne. Janae ends up being Kayla. And this is where Janae realizes like, oh shit, I thought that Kayla might be my biggest competition, but it actually might be Naya. And Brad
Right.
ends up being Nehemiah. So
Yes.
in this, our points update after the second checkpoint is that Janae has 15, Aya has 13, Kayla has 12, and Kellyanne has 5. So we have a close race between the women.
Mm-hmm. Which is
And
exciting
then,
because I feel like anyone can win it still. Like typically
yeah.
we know like, oh, like this person's way in front, like they're probably gonna win it, but right now it could be anybody.
Mm-hmm. And then for the men, Wes has 18, Nehemiah has 15. Brad, I think, had 10. My closed captioning was like blocking his point total. So
Uh
based off of what I could see and the math that I did, I think he has 10 and Mark has 3.
Yeah, poor Mark is like kind of seemingly out of it. I mean, you can never count someone out, but like Wes has 18 points, like,
Yeah.
and also it's wild that Wes overtook Nehemiah with a 5-point lead. So like
Right.
it's doable, It's like one of those things where it's like you can tell like the stars obviously play an impact, but like we're not this huge thing that we're gonna make it super hard for someone else to take the lead.
Well, Wes has won every part of the final spar. He came in first both times when he's paired with the women, and he's won both of his checkpoints.
Oh yeah. So he has
So
like the optimal maximum amount of points you could even
yeah,
have.
I mean, the only way he could have more is if he had the most stars going into.
Right.
So yeah, he's
Yeah.
like currently perfect in terms of the points points available and points he's gotten.
Right.
After this, we start the third checkpoint. So our pairs are Nehemiah and Kayla, Brad and Janae, Mark and Kellyanne, and then Naya and Wes. So then we just get like a quick check-in with a couple of the players. So we get Wes saying he wants to win because he loves the fucking challenge. Janae wants to win back to back. She wants to be the first mom to do that. Kellyanne saying like, listen, I know I'm faster than these women. Like I just have to use my gas sparingly. And Brad in this third checkpoint, like he just starts off. He is ahead of
He
the pack.
takes off. Yeah.
And Janae's kind of like, wait for me. I got
Right. He's
little
like shouting at
legs.
her, like, "Come on,
Yeah.
Johnny! Come on, Johnny!"
Yeah.
And she's
Like
like,
Brad
"I'm
needs
coming. I'm
these
coming."
points. So,
Yeah.
and that's where we end it. We're starting the third checkpoint going
Yeah.
into
And
our last episode.
we're gonna get tandem kayaks, right? That's what they said.
You know, we love a good tandem on this show.
And kayak. I like how they like. Maybe this wasn't the next time on, but maybe not. Where they like, kayaks have like lost people finals, and we have this big
Mm-hmm.
flashback to like 5 different finals where people like are freaking out on kayaks and stuff. So like that
Yeah.
is interesting and exciting to get to see come next week. How these challengers like face these kayaks and don't crumble. So we'll see.
I think tandem kayaking is actually easier than like single kayaking
And
because as
solo.
long as one of the two of you is like doing what you need to, you move. Versus if you don't know what you're doing, like you're screwed in a single kayak.
Yikes. Well, let's see what comes of it, and hopefully, I want to see somebody freak out. I hope somebody flips over. That'd be fun.
I've never flipped
But
out of a kayak, but that's like, I do not want to either.
yeah,
it's never the goal. Yeah,
yeah. I feel like it's one of those challenges where like if you're good at it, you can make up ground. You know, it's like one of those things where
yeah.
it's like oh, if for whatever reason Wes and Naya can't get it together, but Mark and Kellyanne can, like you can pass someone in a kayak pretty easily if you kind of have a
Mm-hmm.
groove going and they don't. So I'm
Yeah.
interested to see if we get some sort of different finishes this time.
Yeah, especially because we saw again Naya. I mean, she finished the raft thing just earlier before everybody else, but she struggled with the stand-up paddleboard. We saw that
Right.
Nehemiah is good at paddling on the raft, even with the one-sided oar.
Right,
So,
exactly. Imagine what he
like,
can do with 2 paddles.
right. So Nehemiah and Kayla are paired together. They each won their
Oh,
their
right.
raft thing. And then you have Brad and Janae. So Brad lost to Wes, but Brad probably beats at least Mark in the
Yeah.
paddling. Janae didn't do bad, just Naya did better. Mark and
Right.
Kellyanne was like outstanding at the stand-up paddleboard, but these two are like struggle city. So I don't
Yeah.
know if they're gonna
They
look out.
really need
Yeah.
they really need to get this win to, like, really get back in it.
And then we have Naya and Wes where like I don't think it's gonna be as much as can they physically do it as like Wes needs to treat Naya right so that
Right.
Naya,
Like, can they work
yeah,
together well? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's where I see that going.
Guess we'll see. It had this, like,
Yes.
big dramatic, like, because it was when I was watching it, I was like, "Oh, we're going into another episode." Like, I thought it was gonna end, and I was like, "Oh, we're gonna finish up the episode. It's gonna finish up quick, like most finals do." But it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, actually, next week we're gonna finish the final, and then we have so much more, right? We have the gross food eating and like all this
Yeah.
stuff, and this big twist is gonna come in, and we saw John and Kayla crying for whatever reason. So like, I was caught off guard for a second, but I'm excited to see it how it plays out.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how it finishes, but I'm not excited that we have a whole nother hour. I
Mm,
I tend to find that when we have to have the final over 2 episodes, that it could have always been 1. So
yeah,
I'm hoping that they don't drag it out so that to like make an hour of it. But I think this also like the points part can make it interesting. We'll see. We'll see. I'm not set that it's gonna be like one of my favorite finals ever, just because it's a two-parter. But I'm
Yeah, I
hoping
can see
I'm wrong.
that. Yeah, I see that too. I think if it could have been like condensed down to one episode, it would have given it the extra oomph for me too. But I think just this format is really, really well done and put together. So I think that's putting it in a top contender for me in terms of finals.
Do you want to make any predictions? Who's gonna win?
Woo! Okay. I feel like if I'm reading into what we're seeing now, I feel like Mark and Kellyanne are kind of out of it. So, and then just like how like Wes has been perfect, and like he's had so much like talk about like how you win a final, like how you prepare for a final. Like I have a lot of experience in finals. I feel like Wes is gonna win this. So that's my prediction for the guys, and then for the girls, I have like I personally I would love to see John A win again. I would love to see her like say what she's like a back-to-back winner, like mom who's won back-to-back, like comes in to the All-Star seasons and is just like killing it. But I feel like Kayla's gonna win it. I feel like we're gonna get Wes and Kayla as the two winners, and I think a little bit of what's like feeding into this too is just the arcs that would be. I think Wes is always like a big character, so like it would make sense. But I think with Kayla, like the whole like running the treehouse, each of them getting decimated one by one. She seemingly is now the underdog. So I think like that is like the storyline that we're gonna get. But I don't actually know. You actually know, so you'll have to let me know after the episode if I was on the right track.
Master sealed. So. All right. Well, do you have any last words you want to say about this episode, Tito?
No loss. Yes, I always yes. Just it's been a really fun ride. I don't know when you're covering the final episode.
Great
but
question.
I really appreciate you letting me come on this season and just chat about the episodes that I've been able to chat about. It's been super fun, and I look forward to future episodes with you.
Yes, I love having you on every time because you are funny and you know what you're talking about. And that really is all it takes to entertain me. So,
Wes told me to do my homework, so I did.
Yes. You know what? Do what Wes does. All right. So, Tito, I know I have one of these made for you somewhere. There we are. Tell the people what you're doing on the internet these days.
Not much, but you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Bechichis. It's BECHICHIS. Where I, not often, but sometimes we'll talk about what I'm doing and hanging out with friends and posting pictures and whatnot. So check me out there.
Nice. And if you're looking at me, I'm KGD26 on all the platforms. I am currently tweeting Love Island, politics, sports, like everything in between. In terms of silent podcasts, we continue to give you your TJ Hates Quitters challenge coverage. So the Challenge USA starts in 2 days, so we will be providing you weekly coverage of that. We just finished our preseason coverage last week. The episode about the Amazing Race was really fun. It was Sasha, Sabrina, and myself, and we kind of like, there's only 3 of them, so we talked big game, challenge overall. It was good conversation. In addition, I am weekly covering Real Housewives. So Katie and I tonight will be covering Ultimate Girls and Beverly Hills from this past week. Of course, this current coverage of All Stars will be wrapping up next week with the finale. And I just recorded my first episode of my little like fun project, I guess we can call it. I think I'm ready to say it. I think I can do it. So I've been alluding to it for a while.
You're doing this right now?
Yeah, I'm gonna drop it. I've been
Wow. Oh
looting
my
this.
God. I'm
Yeah.
so excited that I'm here to hear this.
Yes. So, well, you saw my little graphic that I made. So,
I
um,
did.
I am going to be, I don't want to say recapping, but I'm going to be using Boy Meets World, which is a classic TV show in that, like, it was the staple of TGIF on ABC, repeated for years on Disney Channel. Just overall, like, that show I felt taught me most of my morality. Sorry, mom and dad. And uh just as like a good vehicle to like talk about other things. So I recorded the first episode today. I'm gonna hold off on telling you who the guest was. But like it was a 30-minute show, but we like talked for an hour and a half, and like a lot of it was just like things that happened that then like encourage questions and conversation to related things, whatever. And it's meant to just be fun. So like, yes, the backbone of it is Boy Meets World, but it's more to like just have a fun conversation between two people on the internet. And so that's what that is. It's going to be called Tomboy Meets World because I have and always been a tomboy for sure. No, am I cutting out the last second or is it just you that's cutting out? I don't know who can hear who. Well, I'm just going to wrap this up and see what happens. So, anyway, I think I'm still here. So, I'm gonna hopefully put that out within the next like and a half or so. I'm very excited for it. Gonna have a bunch of different guests from all like corners of the internet. Some you might have heard of, some you might not have heard of, some might have been on TV shows. So I'm really excited for it. It should be fun. So if you are um interested in Boy Meets World or you just like listening to fun conversations, I think it'll be a fun podcast for you. All right, well, if you aren't following us on like all the social media stuff, do that. Twitch and YouTube, some podcast, Twitter, _ podcast. I would say to rate us, but this was you this time. It was me.
I know.
This has not been the highest quality technology episode. So if you don't want to rate us today, like just pass, that's fine. I know Tito and I provide you quality content, just not quality technology. And I'm not going to edit this because I'm just not going to. So sorry. Maybe I will a little bit. I don't know. But in conclusion, rate us 5 stars for our effort and our trials and tribulations, what we had to go through today to get this episode out to you. But
Agreed.
otherwise, that's it. We'll be back probably maybe Thursday or Friday with coverage of the finale. So soon we'll be wrapping up this season. But until then, enjoy whatever day, week, time it is. Hope you have a safe holiday and are, fighting the good fight because we need that right now. But until next time, bye, everyone.
Bye.